Good morning, PGDHE students and my colleagues at the regional centers and other learning centers. Good morning to every one of you, and first starting this session on the second day, I would like to offer my regret this thing because we are starting this session late. There were circumstances that were beyond our control, and now we are starting this session. And as you all know, the title of the session is How Students Learn. See, you all are in the teaching profession and all are teaching at the college level, and some of my the colleagues in the PGDHE as PGDHE learners, they might be teaching in other places also, like technical education, even school levels. Yeah, we all know the focus of the teachers as well as the parents as well as the students. Like, the focus is learning. Parents send their children to school because they should learn. Teachers' main objective is to make their students learn better, and even students, they wanted to do the best, and the best they can do if they learn better. And yesterday's session, I have come to know you people were very participative, very active, and there were a lot of interaction from the learning ends. And the same thing I am expecting from you people today also in this session. And first, before starting the session, I would like to introduce myself. I am Dr. Vibha Joshi. I am in School of Education and involved with this course right from the beginning, and even in this ECP program also, I was involved with the sessions related to these learning from the beginning. And before coming to the point, discussing on the present topic, I want what experience you had for the first day sessions of the ECP. If you are just giving your feedback to us, and mainly through facts, because we will be having live discussions after we are presenting the main content of the today's theme. See, importance of learning is known to everyone, and the first important thing in learning is to whom we are focusing at. For the teacher, for the trainer, for the everyone who is giving the training or learning, learner is the main important component, because if the learner is not there, then the learning has no existence. And as a higher education teacher or prospective higher education teachers, one of your main objective is to develop the rapport with your students. And how a person, without knowing with whom I am interacting and want to develop a rapport, if I don't know the other person, then even the rapport building will be difficult. That's why the main thing is understanding the learner. And learner means knowing what age group they are, what are their aspirations, what are their objectives, and what they want to get from you as a teacher, as only the knowledge they want, or they want like some guidance regarding how to study and how to appear for the examination, or maybe some problems related to their personal or even like peer group. And like after doing this, what they should do, career related problems, and if they are in the technical job, and then joining which institution as a word of work. And one of the thing is like knowing the person, it's very important. And another thing is like where we are teaching. Where we are teaching is not like the college we are teaching, or the university we are teaching, or we are teaching in non-formal centers and things. Like the classroom or the learning center. See, if the classroom is well ventilated, if the classroom is airy, if the classroom is having proper light, if the sitting arrangement is good, if the teacher-student rapport is good, and if the college is not putting barriers and facilitating students admission, and even providing other learning supported facilities, then learning will be better. And if a student is studying in a school where teacher is not coming regularly, or if student's health is not good, or if the teacher is transferred to other college and replacement has not come, these are the things like they also affect learning. But besides these things, there are some other factors that affect learning. One is there are some factors with the students, the learners, like their motivation, their entry level, their inclination, and their responsibilities or priorities. And besides the learner, there are teachers also, teachers related factors, and there are institutional related factors. And if these factors, if a teacher knows these factors and they are aware of it, it's not that all the factors can be like all the factors can be taken, can be handled by a teacher properly. But one thing, the awareness of these factors can help a teacher to be a good teacher and provide better learning to their students. And in addition to these factors, there are different types of learning, as has been given in the unit. The present topic, the theories of learning and their implications for learning. See why these theories are included in this, and how they are going to help you in organizing the teaching learning situations, whether in the conventional classrooms or in the distance learning centers as academic facilitators. They will be certainly help you to provide effective learning to your students. And today's focus is on theories of learning. These theories of learning has been included in the course MES 103, the Higher Education Psychosocial Context, in the unit number 10, Approaches to Learning. Approaches to learning and the theories of learning, they are like have been taken similarly. And in this number of theories have been given. One is the theories followed by behaviorist school of thought. The main theories are classical conditioning theory and the operant conditioning theories. Besides the behaviorist theories, there are other theories, social learning theories and information processing theory. Information processing theory is, I think you people must be very familiar, because this is a computer age. Even if we may not be very expert in using computer to the best possible way, but we all know the functioning, and even we are able to use computer for our purposes. And besides information processing theories, in the today's context, the theories, they are very relevant in learning are constructivist theory and humanistic theory, because previously the learning was acquiring some skills, some things that are observable in the beginning. That's why the behaviorist theory are are categorized under behavior, because they were measuring the behavior. Whether it's a classical conditioning like drilling, like we do in our PT classes, or we are repeating the experiments, or we are doing one thing like every day, like typing, like word processing. And here the thing was acquiring that expected behavior, and in that behavior the situations were created in that way that a learner or the expected stimulus is expected from the students. And similarly, in the operant conditioning, there are intermittent components. They have been placed so that the expected behavior is evolved from the learner. Similarly, the role of society, we cannot outrightly say that society is not having any impact on learning, because learning takes place in the society, because we all are social beings and we are in the society, because culture, social behavior, social expectations, they all have impact on us. And that's why the social learning theory has a relevance. It has a very relevance when we are planning our learning. Information processing theory is nothing in that, like the learning theory has been evolved as a systems approach, where one system is linked to the other system and then to the systems and then the end product. Here the two main thing is the input as a teacher and output as a students. And there are in the computer we have the main body we call CPU. Similarly in the class, the CPU and similar other component, like in the classroom, the teacher, in between teacher and student there is something, whether it's a lecture method, whether it's a demonstration method, whether it's a experimentation. And similarly, when there is a distance between the teacher and the students, when we are teaching at a distance, like here, I am at the teaching and you people are at the learning end. Yeah, the system is, the message is conveyed to you is nothing but similar to the processing thing, and that main component is the processing unit or processing component in the information processing theory. And similarly, the one of the main limitations of the behaviorist theory is, see, the thing was, we are dealing with humans. We are humans. We cannot behave as machines behave. That's why there should be like we are thinking beings. Our students are thinking beings. That's why like they should observe, they should construct their knowledge. It's not that the knowledge existing, the knowledge we have with us, every time it has to be constructed. It is like they should feel the knowledge, they should feel the thing and then do the thing. And that's why constructivist means like the students, they are constructing their knowledge, and that knowledge they are verifying, or they are seeing in relation to the knowledge already existing. And this, you might have seen in the NCERT, like especially at the primary level, the focus is on learning by doing. See, because the child is curious, like the children are very curious and they are very active, and what they do, they touch, they grab, and they do the thing every time, like they jump, they run, they do. That's why the learning by doing. That's why they are feeling, they are doing, they are participating, and then they are seeing. They are first experiencing, and then they are making from the knowledge they are making, and then they are seeing that knowledge in relation to the knowledge already existing. But when our students are the formal stage, they are adults. And when our students are at a stage, every time we need not go for experimentation, observations. This depends, because at one stage, the thing, even by reading, even by observing, we are learning. And in the constructivist, the focus was on constructing their knowledge and then matching it to the already available sources of knowledge. And similarly, in the humanistic approach, as the social learning, because we learn in the society, and social customs, social rules, social norms, they have an impact on our learning. Similarly, a humanistic approach to learning is the focus is we are human beings, we are treating human beings, we are having this teaching learning for the humans, not for the machines. That's why we should have that empathy, and those components should be a part of learning process. Today, due to something, our resource person is slightly like late, and she will be joining very soon with us, and she is a psychologist. She will be dealing with the main gist of the theories. I have just given you the like just the glimpse of all the theories, and now I am requesting, if any one of you, like from the different regional centers, they are sending their queries to us, so that we can take those queries after the presentation, because as still she is expected any time and she is coming, and in the meantime, if you people can give your feedback of the yesterday's session or anything about the PGDHE program you wanted to like convey to the school, we are in a like I am in a position to explain the queries related to this course, and if any other, then I will be passing those queries to my colleagues at the School of Education. And now I am requesting the PGDHE students to start dialing, and if you have any queries, I would like to take here, because resource person she is coming soon. Otherwise, one thing, all the regional centers, the students, they are participating in the PGDHE program. If they can like just give the numbers of the students present in different regional centers in this session. I am requesting my colleagues from different regional centers. Yeah, regional centers, please. See, as there are not any interaction from my colleagues from the regional centers and PGDHE students, and the Rashmi Malhotra, she is a psychologist, and she is the resource person of the today's session. And now I am requesting her to give her presentation, and before that I am again requesting all the regional centers to just give us the idea how many students are present in their regional centers, and how many regional centers are having this ECP during this duration. I think your feedback help us to be more participative also. And there are many even PGDHE students I have seen, you have to do even project work also. Many of you are taking topics related to MES 103, and if some of you has any doubt or any confusion, or any, if they want any other information, you can you can ask that. And the lack of participation, lack of interaction from regional centers has a demotivating effect on the faculty at the school also. And because this ECP is a very appreciable activity by the students, that the feedback we have got from students in the previous years. Okay, Dehradun, please come on the line. Dehradun.
Good morning, Vibha. This is Asha Sharma calling from Regional Center, Dehradun.
Good morning, Asha.
Today we have 6 students.
Okay.
And there are yet 2 more who have yet to come and who have asked for excuse because there is some kind of event going on regarding lesson planning for the private run B.Ed colleges. And those 2 faculties are busy with that event, so they'll be joining tomorrow. And yesterday we had very lively sessions, although we did not have the course director as such, because the one and only educationist who remained and whom I had requested to come over here and to be the course director, she developed some kind of problem in her leg, and she said that she won't be able to sit here for from 10 to 5, and that's how we did not have any course director till yesterday. And after 19th, of course, 2 of the academics have given their consent that they might be coming over here, as one of them would be here as course director. So I'll be little more relieved with the responsibility which I have to shoulder today. And I tried to do it, justify it as much as possible. I went through the course material and I delivered the lectures, and I had lively interaction with the students about role of teachers and about accreditation and quality assessment in the higher the bodies like NAC and DEC and AICT, and I don't know how the students fared. And there is one of them who is going to ask a few questions and who may give you an overview of whatever happened yesterday. So,
thank you, Asha. And we have yes, call please. Okay, Koraput, please come on the line.
Good morning, Viva. This is Karthik Dalai from Koraput Regional Center.
Good morning, Karthik.
Your talk was highly appreciated by everybody in our program. In fact, what our participants are of the opinion that your talk primarily focused on classroom conditions of learning, but whereas today's session is on how students learn. Well, in talking about how students learn, possibly the aspect you have already included in the study material, the constructivist approach to learning, which is making rounds all over the country today, though this has already been included in our course material long back. If a little focus could be laid on it, I think it will be enlightening to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. Because due to unforeseen circumstances, because the resource person was stuck in the jam. Yes, Delhi on the line. Delhi. So now you are Rashmi. Delhi. See, now I am requesting, I am introducing the today's resource person. She is Rashmi Malhotra. She is a psychologist, and she will be presenting the main, like the different theories of learning and how they have the implications for learning at the higher education level. As Karthik, you have told, because being an anchor, and she was stuck in a jam, and I have given only the overview and the focus, because I wanted to cover all the students, even the students, they are learning through conventional thing. Maybe the focus might be on the classroom teaching, but today, after going through the presentation by Rashmi, I think you are like what the students wanted, they will be like more satisfied. Rashmi, please. Chennai, please come on the line. And now I'm requesting other regional centers if they can just wait for 20 minutes. And
we are calling from Chennai, madam.
yeah,
Good morning,
Chennai.
madam.
Yeah, come on the line.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is, madam, you
Yes.
are telling that at the teaching end, the teacher end, that is the student end, is the learning end.
Yeah.
We want to know particularly what type of stimulus to be given for the students to learn well for the subject. Because different subjects, the students will be having some opinion about that. What type of stimulus can be given for the students to enhance that?
Okay.
Could you give us some
Thank you, sir.
appropriate method?
Yeah. Thank you. And now I'm requesting, because resource person is here. She will be giving her presentation, and then she will be giving the answer to this question. Rashmi, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry to be late, but what I would like to cover about learning is different aspects of learning, what factors are affecting learning, how do they affect an individual, and how does it affect the classroom interaction, and how can it help the teacher improve learning abilities and improve the learning skills, so that it can help in getting a more effective learning on the aspects of the student. And I would try to answer the question taken by Chennai, that how can we give stimulus to the child or the student to make sure that they learn better. See, let's go on, and if you look at just the definition of learning in itself is about not only about classroom learning. Learning is a process of continuous adaptation to the environment. It's about getting new information, accommodating it in your previous data bank, as well as trying to modify the old data bank so that it can be adjusted well to the new information. Also, it's something like a very relatively permanent change in your behavior. So it's either you're able to do something better, or you have the potential, your potential increases to do better, more due to practice or experience. If that is what, when we say learning, it needs to be relatively permanent. We also need to realize that when we are talking to a student, learning is not restricted to a classroom interaction. So what is important is that we take the context, the socio-cultural context the child is coming from in consideration when we are dealing with that child and we are trying to interact with that particular child, so that we can give him the proper information related to his own life, which can help him better his life. That is what is important. As we move on, there are various types of learning that are already present, and cognitive learning is mostly the learning that goes on in various colleges in terms of interaction about various concepts, where you're trying to teach them various issues, you're trying to teach them various aspects which are various thoughts, various ideas. You're also helping them develop their own philosophies of life. That's more of cognitive learning. It's also about psychomotor learning, which starts from very early stage. In fact, even cognitive learning does. Where you're learning various skills, and for example, here you're learning a skill of teaching, and your students learning a skill of learning, how to learn better, how to become better, how to study better. So all these skills become very important. Affective learning is about helping the child dealing with emotions. For example, a lot of students get anxious before exams. They're not able to deal with that. All these aspects have been learned. Nobody told them, right, to get anxious before exams, but they've learned it on their own. They've associated different things, and that's how this particular aspect comes up. The concomitant learning is the most interesting form of learning, because it's very unconscious and hidden form of learning. And you won't believe, as a teacher, when you go and interact with your students, you're not only affecting their basic form, you're not only teaching them through the curriculum you're teaching or the syllabus you're teaching, but the way you talk to them, the way you handle them, the way you encourage questions in your class, all this forms a part of concomitant learning. Discrimination learning is another form of learning which is more related to cognitive learning. It's about trying to develop a differentiation between two or more concepts. In terms of learning to, for example, if you're talking about learning to be friendly with your friends, but you're not friendly with everyone on the roads. That's basically a part of discrimination. A very simple example of discrimination learning, where you select certain attributes and you use those attributes to differentiate between two concepts. Principles learning is about trying to find the common threads across various concepts. So while discrimination learning is about differentiating between two concepts, principle learning is about trying to find out the common thread that may exist across the concepts. What is important here is that when we talk about learning, it doesn't ever take place in a vacuum. Learning is always related to the learner, the teacher, the task you're teaching, and the environment that you're teaching in. For example, you can't probably teach if it's very, very hot and you're sitting right outside, bright in the sun, and you're feeling very hot. There's very little amount of learning that would actually take place, because the person would be more bothered about the environment. So right from the physical environment to the socio-cultural environment, everything affects. Even the socio-cultural context the individual comes from, the student that comes to you, is also important, because even that context would affect it. For example, if I'm going in a very rural village and I'm teaching there in a college, and I'm taking up examples right from something like US, they won't be probably be able to relate to it. So I need to substantiate it with the examples from their area also, along with other areas. Along with this, when we talk about the learner, there are various aspects of the learner which might affect, but the most important thing that would affect learning is the learner's ability. Most important thing that would affect learning is the learner's ability and the teacher's trust in the learner's ability. How strongly are you able to tell the learner that yes, I trust you, yes, I trust you, and trust in your abilities, I have complete trust in your ability, and you can really do well. Because teachers' expectations are supposed to do a lot of benefit to the students. And along with this, there are a lot of other factors that have been already given in your module, which have been explained quite well. So I thought there would be certain other factors which I would like to tell you more about. So always remember that when a learner is coming to you, don't expect too much, but tell him that he is capable of doing much better than what he is doing right now. In most of the cases, it would be true, because most of the times learners haven't used their potential completely, and it's for you to help them tap their potential. That is the most important thing. The environment that you create should be conducive for learning, in terms of the learner should feel open, should feel relaxed, should be able to interact with you, should be able to come out with various questions. And along with it, not only the learner, but you should also give them more challenging questions, not asking them, for example, there's a special student in your class, or there's a child who is not doing that well in your class. You ask them very simple questions like, what is learning? But another learner, you're asking very tough questions. So that makes it very clear that the students are quite smart to understand that yes, you're not really careful about those aspects, but ask them a little more challenging question than what they can handle, so that it becomes easier for them to interact with you and know that you really trust in their abilities and want to move on. So that is one important aspect. So creating a conducive environment should be one of your most important aspects. And like for example, we're just having a call right now where you were talking about there was a lot of interaction, and any interactive class leads to a lot of learning, because then there's not one mind which is putting in all the effort, but there are lots of minds which are trying to construct knowledge, and we need to know that learning is about constructing your own knowledge. As we move on to various approaches of learning which you've gone through, but there are certain approaches which are, we've discussed here 6 approaches, and they're very basic in nature, but they cover wide aspects of your learning. And let me tell you one thing, that there's not one approach that answers everything. So in classroom, there's not one approach that takes care of all the aspects, but all the 6 in amalgamation together take care of your learning. Right? So if you look at classical conditioning, which was given by Ivan Pavlov, and it was a very strange discovery that happened at that time, it was about the fact that he was saying that a neutral stimulus which might just not evoke any response suddenly becomes a stimulus which might evoke responses which is not its used to. For example, as a teacher, whenever you enter the class, if you expect your students to sit down and be prepared for the class, you're actually giving them a very good stimulus to know that this is the response I'm expecting, rather than when you enter the class and then you expect them, okay, now you sit down, now you settle down, now you be prepared for it. So you are deciding on what kind of stimulus is being associated with what kind of response. So that becomes very important. This is what you need to take care of when we are talking about classical conditioning. So you need to associate the right stimulus with the right response. What is important here is that you're associating the positive events. For example, if a student is asking you a question, you are encouraging the student. You're also telling the student that okay, you're good, but you can ask better questions. So you're associating positive responses with positive stimuli, which will help the student encourage and improve upon in his life and do much better in his life. Along with it, this can also be used to find out where are similarities and where are differences. For example, you might have noticed even in your own groups that there's some teachers who go into the classes and the classes are well settled and students are very interactive, while in certain classes the students are very dull, they'll sit back, they'll not interact. I'm not saying it's the fault of the teacher or the fault of the students, but it's about how they've been conditioned to. Certain teachers are very, very concerned about the discipline, so they make sure that's happening. And at the same time, along with discipline, it's important to maintain a balance with that discipline is not overruling the whole thing and you're not having any interactions, but about other things also. So because you're going to teach higher education groups, it becomes important that you're able to interact with them much more, because they've reached a stage where they're adults, they're able to take their decisions, they're able to move on. The next approach that we talk about is called the operant conditioning approach, which is about the fact that as an individual you don't only respond to what's in there in your environment, but how you respond leads to the kind of reinforcement that you get from the environment. For example, if I tell my students that please don't interact, you're most welcome with your questions, but whenever a student is asking me a question, I say, okay, we'll handle it later. I move on. What am I doing? Am I really reinforcing the right response? No, I'm not. Because what I'm trying to do here is I'm telling them, okay, yeah, please come out with your questions. And then whenever they ask me questions, I tell them, oh, that's a stupid question, or that's not interesting. So you need to encourage a lot of that. So you need to associate, you need to make sure that you're reinforcing a lot of positive behavior. At the same time, you're also you make sure that you're not reinforcing a lot of negative behavior. The student's trying to catch your attention again and again. You need to tell the student that it is not going to happen, because the classroom interaction, the learning is being interrupted and interfered in other ways. The third approach that we talk about is called the observational learning approach, or the social learning approach, which is basically two methods to it, and it was given by Albert Bandura. And it's found that right from the beginning, right from the childhood, when the child is born, this is one learning which starts very beginning. Not that the others don't, but this is one which is very prominent, because children immediately repeat the actions that you do. So that also happens in adulthood, where we become smart enough to not blindly imitate our adults or blindly imitate our role models, but choose on what behaviors are they being reinforced. So probably we might like our professor in certain ways in terms of his knowledge and would like to read more, which was about observational learning, but we might not like the fact that he's smoking or he's doing something else. So we might not do that. So observational learning is about trying to repeat that behavior which is being positively reinforced for that particular model, rather than being for yourself. So that is very important. That's the biggest difference. So you as a teacher not only carry the subject, you don't only act as a subject transactor, but you act as a role model, you act as a mentor, you act as a counselor, you act as at times as a surrogate parent also. So there's so many diverse roles that you're playing when you're just being there as a teacher and thinking that I'm just transacting the subject and I'm more interested that they get the subject easily. If you look at the next approach that we are going to talk about, is about information processing approach, which we most of us stress on in terms of learning and memory. Information processing approach talks about three basic aspects in terms of storing information, being whatever you give them, they should be able to construct their own bases in terms of they should be able to understand it, they should be able to comprehend it, they should be able to build up a schema around it and be able to process that information and use that information further. So that is what we talk about when we talk about storing the information, being able to process the information and being able to handle the processes which are processing the information. That is what is about metacognition. And if you look at it in the teaching learning context, it's important that the learner and the teacher is able to stimulate the learner enough in different areas in terms of giving them more challenging questions rather than pointing straightforward questions, probably encouraging them for more research. Why not? Because they are higher education students. You can encourage them to do more creative work, you can encourage them to do more research work and come up with more interesting ideas. So those thought-provoking ideas will help them in coming out with various points, with coming out with challenging their own cognitive abilities, using their cognitive abilities and not restricting itself only to memorization or rote memorization, but probably challenging their reasoning abilities, challenging their decision-making abilities, challenging their problem-solving abilities, which helps them also in increasing their self-esteem because they feel that they know beyond the curriculum. So that is one thing which it really helps in. The next approach is a very interesting approach which basically believes it's constructivist approach, and it basically believes in a premise that knowledge can be constructed. That is, it is not static. The way I teach, the way I tell you is not necessary that is the way you understand it. You might pick up a few points of this presentation and might like, okay, I like this and I would keep it, but you might not keep up every aspect of it. So knowledge is being constructed every day, day in and day out with the students you're interacting with. What is important here is that there would be something called individual construction, there would be something called social construction. That is, it's something like I as an individual would be some different, but as at the same time I am an Indian, I also have a social reality around me. So that becomes a very important part. So we need to encourage a lot of group brainstorming sessions, a lot of group collaborative activities so that they can discuss with each other about various concepts and they can construct their social reality, and it can also widen their social reality rather than restricting it to only their own knowledge. For example, if it's a lecture method, I give a lecture, you take it, that's it. You've constructed your own reality without actually discussing whether it's right, whether it's wrong, even if it's not right or wrong, whether there were more parameters that needed to be added to it, whether there was more widened group that needed to be taken care of. All these things are important here. So when we talk about social constructivists, it talks about trying to construct reality within a group. Trying to, for example, being a part of India is a social reality, is a part of our social constructivism. So when we talk about group activities, we also talk about encouraging an environment where they are able to interact with each other, where they are able to discuss various things with each other, where there's a lot of openness and trust amongst each other, and that can only be inculcated by you. It takes a lot of time to let the students just open up immediately, and it takes a lot of time to accept that the students might come up with certain challenging questions which you also might have to go back to refer to, but it's perfectly alright to tell your students that, okay, I'm sorry, I don't know about this, but probably I'll get back to you, because you are also in terms learning with them. That is very important. The next approach actually addresses this particular issue very clearly in terms of, it's called the humanist approach, and humanist approach is about trying to address the subjectivity of each individual in terms of helping the individual attain his or her own goals in life. It believes that every individual has a potential to become a better individual, to decide on what do I want to be. And since you're dealing with higher education students, I'm sure they've landed up in different streams because they know what they want to be. They want what they want to decide. So therefore, let them decide, let them choose, and encourage a lot of activities which help them decide on this, which help them choose their own aspects. And what is more important here is that this approach stresses a lot on teacher-student relationship. In terms of, it sees a teacher-student relationship as a relationship which has a lot of genuineness to it. The teachers doesn't pretend, doesn't put on a pretense in front of the students don't put up on a pretense in front of the teachers. They can discuss various things openly. There's a lot of empathy. You need to understand, you need to remember your own college days, how much you wanted to really study, how much you really wanted to learn more, and at the same time what were things that really made you realize that no, I don't want to study this subject. So you need to take care of those things. So please always go back to those days, and before you tell this about the students that they don't study or they do study, it is very important that you encourage this kind of interaction with them. Therefore, we also, in humanistic approach, there's a lot of student-centered learning. There's a student-centered pedagogy, that is, you encourage a lot of inquiry-based learning. You might just give them a question. What if, let's say if I'm teaching psychology, what if psychology was dealing with, not with mind, but probably just the physical systems? What would happen? Let them talk about it, let them discuss those issues. How would you apply the psychology of teaching learning process if you're teaching in a jail? So the whole aspect, the whole environment changes. The children are coming up with questions, the children are coming up with various answers. So it's a lot of inquiry-based learning rather than just giving them a small lecture about how teaching learning environment is important. Rather than saying that, okay, the classroom context is very important, you probably tell them, no, beyond the classroom context, there is a lot of teaching learning environment that is very important. And if I change this learning environment, how would it affect us? So these kinds of discussions help the students in coming up in trying to explore various boundaries that might be there and to trying to think beyond those boundaries. It also helps in challenging the stereotypes, the biases that we may carry. For example, some of us might think that, oh, for example, criminals are not worth they're not worth living even, they shouldn't be actually be taught. But it helps you in challenging those boundaries. It helps you in thinking about, oh, how it would change their lives and how it would help us. So this is about the teaching learning various approaches that we talk about, and in the end I would just give you a small conclusion which tries to cover up the whole concept of learning in small things, that learning in a classroom environment is an active process involving a collaboration of both the teacher and the learner. You're not the only one who's teaching, the learner is not the only one learning. It's both ways. You're also learning, the learner is also learning. So it's a collaborative within a framework of all the approaches. That is, there's not one approach applicable to one area. It's various approaches applicable to all the areas and working towards the growth of both the learner and the teacher. So both the approaches, the growth of both the approaches becomes, the growth of both the people, the teacher and the learner, becomes very, very important. So therefore, teaching is not a static profession, learning is not a static profession. As a teacher, you're always in a learner mode, and as a learner, as a teacher, you always need to encourage your students to be in a learner mode all their life, because that's the best thing that you can give it to them, because as they encourage, they help them identify their learning styles, help them identify how they can learn better, what are the various aspects of it, and this would help in improving their learning and their ability to learn and their motivation to learn new things rather than just idling your time.
Koraput, please come on the line. Thank you, Rashmi. Yeah, now we will be dealing with the questions. Yes, the line.
Thank you, Madam Malhotra.
Yes.
I am Dr. A. Pradhan from Regional Center Koraput.
Okay.
Invited as a resource person.
Yes.
Actually, before your arrival, there was a request from this regional center to listen about the role of teacher at higher education level while following the constructivist approach. As you know, this is one of the recent approaches to learning, developed only in 1980s and 90s, and fits to learners at all the levels. And would you like to highlight the role of, specifically, the role of teachers while following this approach at higher education level? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pradhan. Yeah, Rashmi, this is like a higher education teachers, they are following constructivist approach. What would be the role of the teacher and how they can follow constructivist approach in the higher education system? And here one thing in the higher education system is the classes are not over, they are like the large classes. Sometimes 75 students, 100 students, even beyond that. It's a lecture hall rather than a classroom.
Right, yeah. That's right. See, the constructivist approach basically works on a premise that every individual constructs his or her own reality. Now, to help the individual construct his or her own reality is the job of the teacher to encourage that reality. First thing is that they believe completely that there is no one factual truth, right? So every knowledge is the right knowledge, and every individual has the right to develop his or her own knowledge. But at the same time, they also look at various generalizations. So constructivist approach was individual as well as social in nature. In terms of, they looked at every individual constructing his own knowledge.
Cochin, please.
Do I keep answering?
Yeah, till this.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm a student from Cochin. Ma'am, is constructivism equally applicable to students of higher learning, or are these students more mature for abstract type of learning?
Okay. Thank you.
Are these students more mature for?
Yeah, then whether they are equally, constructivist approach is equally applicable to higher education also, or the students, because they are mature and it's more abstract learning.
See, constructivist approach takes care of both concrete and abstract learning. It's about not only telling them that, okay, learning is this. For example, right now when I'm discussing learning with you, not only telling you learning is this, I'm also helping you trying to develop your own aspect, your own understanding of learning, that how would you apply it in your own context. So when you talk about the constructivist approach, the teacher's role becomes important, because in order to help the students develop their own learning, in order to help the students...
Chennai, please come on the line.
Hello, we are calling from Chennai, madam.
Yes.
Right now there are 18 students in our batch who are watching the program.
Okay.
Now the days are going for web learning and e-learning. The role of the teacher is very minimal. As you know that then what type of approach the student to take his own initiative to understand or learn the subject? What is the role we are playing in teaching that?
Okay. Thank you. Now the question is, this is like the age of e-learning and different types of, besides classroom we are learning is through e-learning, and even the same we are following. Then what is the role of like the teacher, like and constructivist approach, like?
Okay.
Learning is learning, na? Whether we are following, it is the methodology, like whether we are teaching through television or whether we are teaching in the classroom. It is the approach, but learning is the same, and how we are going. And one more thing, the coaching question also, because I think we go with the thing like the knowledge already existing in the world. We wanted like the children should learn that, or the student should learn that. On the what methodology they are adopting. Like you may be learning, you may be having your style of learning, and I may be having my style. But the teacher should be, I think, should accept that individuality of the learners and encourage learning on the students. I think that should be the focus, and even minimize our that so-called stereotyped learning, that approach we have in our.
I would say that in fact
Okay. Yes.
I am a participant from Chennai.
Okay. Yes.
The method that you are
Please speak little loud.
as far as the learning condition is concerned.
Chennai, please.
The real knowledge that are explained in the scriptures of our country. The revealed knowledge is, that has been taught to the students by the teacher in Upanishad. So when we are teaching philosophy, what kind of learning experience will be there? Do you think this already explained theory of learning will be enough to understand the learning situation in that context to teach the revealed knowledge? Because we are teaching Vedanta for students in college. Could you please explain?
Thank you, sir. We are trying to explain like what this thing, how the theories of learning are applicable in teaching philosophy, like teaching of philosophy when the subject like Vedanta. I think the theories of learning is nothing but they are giving us the Koraput, yes. Rashmi, yes, the light. Come on the light.
Small suggestion we have.
Okay.
That when the answer is being given to a question, because on important aspects you have been discussing and we are listening to you all, let Dr. Malhotra finish in the quickest possible time, so that you switch over to the next question. You could possibly ask the person, holding the telephone to hold on till Dr. Malhotra finishes her talk. In this context, in fact, I would like to say that we have different approaches of learning, and different theories of learning. It appears that we till today all over the world do not know as to how one learns. So we are just giving a generalistic impression that we'll go for constructive approach, this approach, that approach. Do we really know as to how does one learn? Thank you.
Thank you, Dalai, and we will be considering your suggestions, because when she is explaining, I think that the question to be taken in in a more clear way and more explanation. Now I'm requesting Rashmi if you can give the teaching of philosophy and theories of learning, their application.
Okay, I'll try to answer all the questions together. If I look, first talking about, there were a lot of questions regarding the constructivist approach and whether it's applicable to higher education students or not. Yes, it is. See, we all keep constructing our own knowledge as we go about, even when we stop being a student. So it's not that once you are a student is the only time when you're constructing your knowledge. As you grow up, why is it that your perspective is so different from your elders, and why is it that your perspective is so different from your younger people around you? So it's because you've constructed your own knowledge, because based on your experiences, based on your learning. So the constructivist approach is very important, and the teaching learning methodology that you can use is trying to present the same matter, the same concept in different ways, in trying to, for example, if I take the example of philosophy, because that was one concept that came up, that how do we teach philosophy, and just taking an example of constructivist approach. See, if we talk about philosophy, yes, every school of thought, whether it's phenomenology, whether it's eclectic approach, whether I'm talking about different schools of approaches, all of them try to talk about various aspects, but helping the student, helping the individual construct and understand how much is that particular concept relevant in their life, relevant in present context, whether it's an existentialist concept, whether it's humanist approach, all these aspects. So trying to understand their relationship with each other is very important. Besides that, we don't try and teach them in separate entities, but we try and help them find relations. For example, there's a lot of relationship between Indian and Western philosophies. There are similarities, there are differences. So you need to encourage them to discuss those, to find out those, rather than, or just one activity could be find out literature related to, let's say if you're teaching Vedanta. So what present literature do you think would reflect that particular philosophy? Or if you're talking about phenomenology, then what present literature would talk about that? Or what is the relationship, if I look at phenomenology in present context, where we are, is it just talking about individualism, or it's moving beyond it? So encouraging them to more challenging questions, encouraging them to more challenge their own boundaries is very important. That is one thing that you need to take care of. If I look at other aspects of teaching learning process, in terms of the question that came up, how do we learn? I would answer that, sir, by saying that in psychology we never have one truth. I just told you about constructivism. Each one of us is trying to explain different aspects of learning. And if you look at each school of thought, you would find that even in your life, each school of thought has some space. There are some places where you've actually learned because of it. For example, if you look at small thing like association, which seems like very ridiculous today, but might in terms of classroom teaching, but the fact is that yes, a lot of students get to pay attention to the teacher because of this kind of association that they form, because of the kind of reinforcement they've been getting, because of the kind of questions that have been asked by teachers. So a teacher is at the same time using a constructivist approach, a teacher is at the same time using a humanist approach, where she might be helping them construct their own reality, understand their own reality. At the same time, the teacher might be using a social learning approach, where the way she is presenting, the way she is asking questions is affecting the individual. So if you look at it, all the approaches are applicable to your life. And human nature, human being is so diverse that there cannot be one single law of learning. There's never one single law of learning, because all the aspects cannot be covered by one law. So each approach is trying to cover different aspects of it. So at present we follow more of an eclectic approach, where we understand that knowledge is not static, it's being constructed. At the same time, you're not only learning by constructing your own knowledge, because there are certain generalizations found across the board. So each aspect is playing its own role when we discuss it.
Rashmi, it's like the time, we don't have more time with us for this session, and it's a very lively presentation and followed by the discussions. Only like we have lost time on the jam, like the traffic jam, but this is beyond our control. And I'm hopeful all the PGDHE students, they are present at the regional center, they must have enjoyed today's presentation and their interaction with us. And see, the topic, how students learn. Actually, it is not something like the scientific experiment and we are doing the experiment and the results are coming. Yeah, it is. It is not something that we can actually. This is the way students learn, and because learning, when we go for the cognitive thing, what behaviors they are showing, that we can say it's learning. Yeah, and as Dr. Dalai has told from Koraput, Regional Center Koraput, my colleague Mr. Dalai, yeah, it is true. It is we cannot say like how students learn, but there are something that facilitate learning, and the understanding of theories of learning certainly help. And yeah, that's why today's the time is over, and now I'm thanking my expert Rashmi as well as my colleague in the regional center and PGDHS students, and requesting them to be even more participative in the coming sessions in ECP, whether through teleconferencing or through face to face. And if they have any queries, they can fax it, and we will be trying to give you the answers or the solutions. Thank you.